Good evening, I'm Jason Vio. Katarina is away tonight. This is CBC Windsor News. Thank you so much for watching. Tonight, Windsor police investigating a suspicious fire, and the family shares their story of escaping the flames. Plus, we're hearing from a Harrow mom who says the school system is failing her son. She says her 7-year-old's medical needs aren't being met. A Windsor police officer who donated $50 to Freedom Convoy protest learned about his penalty today. The constable was found guilty of discreditable conduct back in March. And should downtown Windsor get its own marina? One councillor thinks that idea should be explored. A family is picking up the pieces today after their home went up in flames on Askin Avenue. The police arson unit is investigating the fire, saying it's suspicious. Now the family of 6 say they're homeless and left searching for answers. The CBC Windsor's Dale Molnar has their story.
Shayna Chase, her 4 children, and her mother Danielle are now living in a motel. They have been left homeless and lost everything in the fire that gutted the home yesterday afternoon around 2:20. They say they are in shock. Shayna was downstairs. Christian Chase says he was upstairs sleeping in his room. His brother Jacob, who has cerebral palsy and uses a wheelchair, was sleeping in his room upstairs. Christian says the fire started outside at the back of the house and moved in.
I went to go open my door, and a huge blast of flames and smoke went into my face immediately. The stairs were completely engulfed in flames already. My brother's door was already being burnt down, and I was trying to yell to him to close the door, but he tried to close the door and he got burnt doing that.
Neighbors sprang into action when they saw the fire.
The one boy was hanging out the window by his feet. There was a bunch of people down there, and they were telling him just to jump or whatever. And then I told my daughter-in-law, the neighbor has a ladder up on the house. I asked her to grab the ladder. She came running with the ladder.
Happened to run next door because my neighbors had a ladder on the side of their house. And I ran as fast as I could with the ladder.
What went through your mind at the time?
I hope everyone's safe. I was hoping everybody was out.
The boy that was hanging out the window was Jacob. Christian jumped out the other side and was able to join Shayna in time to catch Jacob, who slid out the window.
Well, that also burnt him because the fire was right behind him. So that burnt his back and his legs and the back of his hair.
Jean-Marc Smith then thought the youngest boy was still in the house and climbed the ladder.
The flames started shooting out at that time. And I just thought if he was up there, that it's probably too late or whatever.
The other 3 family members were not at home at the time.
I want to say thank you to all those people who were there and helped, and they were very fast and they were very caring people.
Police are investigating this as a suspicious fire. The family is upset and can't understand why anyone would do this if this was intentional.
Nobody that I know of really has any hatred towards us, enough to burn a house down full of people, right?
They can only stay in the motel for another day and then have to find a place, but don't know where. They may start a GoFundMe page. The family is thankful they are alive, and Jacob's chair was saved. Windsor police are asking for the public's help in investigating this case. They're asking for anyone who may have a video of this area yesterday afternoon when the fire happened to give them a call. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
A Harrow mom is speaking out after she says a local public school isn't addressing her son's education and medical needs. And as CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa tells us, she isn't the only one with concerns.
Jessica McCoy is looking at an email, one of several she says she's sent to Harrow Public School and the Greater Essex County District School Board. She's reaching out about her 7-year-old son, Jack.
There's no response back from the school board. It's just a hopeless system.
For a few months last year, McCoy says Jack was only allowed to go to class for an hour a day, as the school says he was misbehaving.
One time he hid in a locker. Another time, he jumped off a table or off of a chair, or he would throw things.
The hours slowly increased if Jack was being good, but Ontario's Education Act says a school day can only be modified for kids in a special education program.
To me, I felt bullied by the principal at the time. I felt like it didn't matter what I say, I was always in the wrong. I have to look out for my child's best interests, and my child deserved an education. He deserves to be in school, not treated like a monster. I felt like my child was a monster and I failed. When I look at it now, I don't think I failed, I think the school system failed.
This year, Jack was diagnosed with epilepsy, which McCoy says can cause him to be aggressive or irritable. Even though she's told the school about his health issues, she says they've yet to make accommodations.
I would, for one, like them to communicate. When they get an email, respond or pick up the phone and call. It's not that difficult.
And she's not the only parent who feels their concerns are going unheard.
It's taken me this whole entire school year to work on the doctor's appointments and the paperwork and everything to get my daughter to where I need to get, help for her. And it's deflating when you have to, take time off work, go to all these appointments, and then hit more hurdles when you don't feel that there's response from administration.
Bondi says she's heard from at least 17 parents who have found their children's needs aren't being met as the school and board are non-responsive.
I've been talking to parents in my community who are actually considering transferring their children from the public board to the local Catholic school.
The Greater Essex County District School Board told CBC News it wouldn't comment as that would breach student and staff privacy. But Public Relations Officer Scott Scantlebury says there are multiple avenues for parents to voice their concerns, and they are heard when they go through those channels. The Ministry of Education also wouldn't comment. As for McCoy, she says she just wants to know that Jack is getting the education he deserves. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
A Windsor police officer must work unpaid hours after he donated to the Freedom Convoy protests. Constable Michael Briscoe was found guilty of discreditable conduct back in March. Now, Briscoe donated $50 to protesters in Ottawa and Windsor during the blockades in 2021. The adjudicator says the donation damaged the reputation of the Windsor Police Service. Briscoe must now work 80 hours unpaid as a penalty. Those hours must be worked on rest days or vacation days. He has 8 months to complete the extra hours. Day 4 of construction being paused at the electric vehicle battery plant here in Windsor. While Stellantis pushes for a deal with Ottawa, the automaker is also battling with governments overseas. And the CBC's TJ Deer continues to follow this story for us and joins us live now with more. So TJ, what is the latest?
Well, negotiations are ongoing between Stellantis, LG Energy Solutions, and the federal government over a new deal for the battery plant. But it turns out that Stellantis is making a similar move to get what they want with the British government.
Not only is Windsor's new electric vehicle battery plant in jeopardy, so are the 2 existing Stellantis assembly plants in the UK. The auto giant says it's because of the Brexit deal the UK signed with the European Union, which states that as of next year, EV makers have to source a big share of their materials from either the UK or the EU. Failure to do so will result in large fines to export their finished vehicles. Stellantis says it needs several years to meet the conditions and told the British House of Commons that if costs become too high, operations will close. Meanwhile, here in Windsor, construction is still largely stalled as Stellantis wants more concessions from Ottawa. An industry expert says he's not surprised by the move Stellantis is making here and in the UK.
Car companies use it all the time. It's a divide and rule tactic to play off different places against each other for maximum subsidy and maximum flexibility out of workers to get their costs down.
A local law professor says this is a reminder for Windsor to diversify away from the auto industry. She also said that the industry has passed its peak with electrification coming.
We don't want to take our foot off the gas at this moment. We want to say, okay, this was the wake-up call. Keep doing what we're doing, but also let's move on the other stuff. We have the roadmap there.
Local MP Brian Massey took a different tack to solve future problems, stressing the need for a national auto policy. He says the lack of a policy can create situations like the one Stellantis and LG have created by pausing construction. Ottawa said they would provide $500 million in funds to the plant before the Biden administration introduced the Inflation Reduction Act. Soon afterwards, Volkswagen agreed to a $13 billion deal in subsidies to build their EV battery plant. This brought Stellantis and LG back to the bargaining table with Ottawa. Part of the negotiations included a dispute between the federal and provincial governments over who should step up to finalize a deal. Massey said the back and forth looks unprofessional and that the focus of both governments should be on the workers. The national head of the union that will represent the plant's workers agrees.
I am not happy that our members are caught in the middle of this high stakes poker game right now, and time is critical. We're not talking weeks, we're talking days. This needs to get done and done quickly.
The plant is in Ward 9, whose councillor, Kieran McKenzie, says although he's concerned about the current state of things, he's confident a deal will be signed.
So that's where things are right now. Still no deal finalized between Stellantis, LG, and Ottawa. Jason?
Thanks so much, TJ. The CBC's TJ Deer live in studio. And it's a big year for the auto industry in Canada. Workers will start to renegotiate a deal in August. There's 20,000 members who will negotiate with the big 3 automakers, Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. Now, priorities were hammered out in London this week, and those include pension and wage increases as well as job security. Unifor President Lana Payne says they want to keep jobs during the transition to electric vehicles, as well as secure a new product to build at those Canadian plants. Thousands gathered in Ottawa today for the funeral of Ontario Provincial Police Sergeant Eric Mueller. The 42-year-old OPP officer was fatally shot last Thursday in Bourget, Ontario, and 2 other officers were injured while responding to a disturbance at a home. Police described what unfolded that day as an ambush. A 39-year-old suspect was arrested. He faces 1 first-degree murder charge and 2 counts of attempted murder. Residents in Valley View, Alberta got the news they've been waiting for today. They're being allowed to return to their homes. About 12,000 people are still not able to go back, though, with 92 fires across the province, including more than 24 that are burning out of control. And air quality advisories from wildfire smoke remain in place for much of Alberta. Crews of more than 2,500 are battling fires in the province, including support from several provinces, the Canadian military, and the U.S. One firefighter has suffered serious injuries near East Prairie Métis settlement. His family says he's in a coma in an Edmonton hospital. Hot and dry conditions are in the forecast, which means difficult days ahead for fire crews. A recent study is shedding new light on the heat wave that hit parts of southern Asia last month. International scientists say it was made 30 times more likely because of climate change. In India, this scorching heat has caused deaths and crop failures, but that is just part of the wide-ranging impact severe weather is having on its people. Salama Shivji has that story.
Even in the early hours, it's painful under Delhi's fierce sun. Any relief is but temporary. From a stifling heat, at times impossible to bear. For those dependent on the money from their crops, there's no other way. It doesn't matter how hot it gets, this farmer says. My entire family has to be out here. The same struggle at this local market. There's no shade or shelter to save us from the heat, this vendor says, but we have to sell our vegetables.
It's flirting with 40 degrees here in Uttar Pradesh outside of Delhi, and that is a good day, a brief respite, with temperatures heading into the mid-40s. Experts say India is getting more days of extreme heat that are far more intense for sustained periods. Heat waves are expected to double, even triple, over the next few decades.
Last month, 13 people died at an outdoor event near Mumbai in a heat wave scientists say was made 30 times more likely because of climate change.
It is heat plus humidity that we need to be worried about. The problem is that climate change is simultaneously increasing temperature and humidity.
The additional threat is an economic one, lost working hours due to extreme heat. India is more vulnerable on that front than any other country in the world. And so there's a push to adapt. Small initiatives like at this government daycare center in India's south, one of Chennai's poorest areas. Temperature readings are a constant, monitoring the progress of this newly planted garden on the roof.
We are noticing around a 1 degree difference between the two across the day measurements. As the green patch increases, we look forward to the temperature difference being somewhere around 3 degrees.
The hope is those few degrees will make a big difference to help blunt the effects of a warming climate, one roof at a time. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Uttar Pradesh.
And WestJet has started parking planes and canceling flights as tomorrow's deadline for a pilot strike looms. The company says talks with its 1,800 pilots are at a critical impasse. So to avoid leaving planes and passengers stranded tomorrow, it has canceled many of today's flights. The federal labor minister and mediators have now joined negotiations in Toronto. Pilots are demanding better wages. They earn roughly half of what U.S. pilots are paid. WestJet says it can't afford more. Any job action would affect WestJet and Swoop flights. The labor dispute comes as thousands of Canadians are traveling for the May long weekend. Still to come here on CBC Windsor News Live at 6. What do you think about building a marina in downtown Windsor along that riverfront? We'll hear from boaters, the business community, and the city councillor exploring that idea right after the break. I'm here at the city-owned Lakeview Park Marina, which can hold up to 225 boats. And Windsor City Councillor Fred Francis is floating the idea of creating another marina in downtown Windsor, which he says would be positive for businesses in the core. Francis said the marina could be installed right here at the foot of Olette along the river. And he says it doesn't need to be anything huge or overly expensive, but maybe a scaled down version of what's in the East End or even floating docks.
The waterfront is a world-class gem, a world-class attraction that we have. How could we add to that? How can we take advantage of that?
And once people dock downtown, Francis envisions all of that foot traffic kind of funneling right up here on Olette Avenue and eventually to Polisher Street as well. And the Downtown Windsor Business Improvement Association supports initiatives like this one that will boost downtown business. In fact, the new chair says they will support pretty much any initiative that has a positive impact on the core.
We would defer to the council and to, the experts as to what is viable and what is the best use of taxpayer resources. I think that we need to stay within our lane, right? We need to focus on the things where we can make a difference. And, for us downtown this year, safety and security is a big priority for this group.
Although the idea of a downtown marina is resurfacing now, it's not a new concept. Previous councils between 2000 and 2014 looked at the idea. Studies were paid for, sketches were drawn, but it never materialized.
I think a large impediment was the cost, and also who's going to use this.
But how taxpayer dollars are spent is the exact reason why Councillor Fred Francis says he's exploring the idea of a downtown marina. Right now, council plans to spend $37 million on a new civic esplanade over the next several years. It's a massive undertaking that stretches from the new city hall down to the river, and it includes a food truck village, a stage, and a large outdoor ice rink, among other things. But Francis wants to have an open discussion to see if there are better ways to spend the money. What do you think about the idea of City Council putting a marina in downtown Windsor?
Oh, I think it's a fabulous idea. I think it'd be great for the city, it'd be great for tourism, it'd be great for the boaters, give them a chance to get out, grab a bite to eat, or just walk around downtown.
It's going to be a win-win. I think it's one of those where, you spend $1 to make 10. It's a great idea. It probably should have been done a long time ago.
Francis wants to make it clear he's not opposed to the Civic Esplanade project. He just says it's not a pressing investment right now. And he's also not married to the idea of a downtown marina either. Investing in security initiatives for the core is his top priority. Then he says he wants to look at all ideas that could be less costly and provide more of a positive impact in the immediate future. Time now for a look at weather. Colette Kennedy joins us live for that. Colette, the magic of TV. I'm back from the marina. I'm in studio again. It was so nice outside. It was hard to leave. But I must say, we did see a really massive swan today when we were out there, and some geese with their little, I don't know what you call them, their little babies, I guess, hopping in the little canal there. It was such a gorgeous day.
Oh, that sounds, I'm glad that you got to enjoy that while you were out there and doing that story. And especially because, we've had some areas where we're seeing in southwestern Ontario, especially across Michigan, some of that smoke in the upper atmosphere moving in. So it gives that kind of hazy appearance. But at least in other ways, it was generally a sunny day, right? Temperatures below seasonal, though. That's what we're seeing. And a cool down that's happened in the west, not so much for BC, but I mean in the western prairies, which in many cases is kind of welcome because of the issues with the fires burning there in Western Canada. Now, what they don't have is a widespread rain in that area, and the ridge of high pressure still holding on, a little upper trough that's going to move into BC, but otherwise the ridge is just sliding eastward a little bit. So in terms of the dry conditions, that carries on. And today that smoke, which I was just mentioning, really expanding. Now, where it's at the surface, and these are some watches and warnings for some of the convective thunderstorms, but this is what you're seeing, where at the surface there is that air quality statement because of the respiratory issues with the smoke. But then when it's in the upper atmosphere and it expands with those upper winds, look at all the areas now under the influence of this as it's pushed all the way down towards the mid-Atlantic and, yes, through southwestern Ontario. So right on the doorstep here, gives a nice sunset, that's for sure. The sun will be very, very orange and some beautiful colors, something to be looking for tonight. But again, that's in the upper atmosphere, at least in this neck of the woods, so not a concern. And we'll see that kind of pushing away as we've got changes coming. So these are the current readings. I know it's only Thursday, and tomorrow is Friday, not necessarily the holiday weekend, but people often think of it as part of that holiday weekend. And looking with some cool temperatures, you kind of want to see a warm up. Well, we actually do have that coming. Will be a little bit of up and down, but we have some rain on the way too. So clear conditions tonight. And tomorrow morning, sunny to start. Then we get into some fair weather cloud, not a big deal moving in. A little more cloud into the afternoon, and I've paused this, you see, at 4 p.m. because I do want you to know that things will change. And not only is there some shower activity into the evening, but a risk of some embedded thunderstorms. So there could be some heavier downpours here as it pushes in towards the late evening and overnight. Now, as we are Saturday into that holiday weekend, we will see some things drying out, some isolated showers, but much of it kind of lingers, but it lingers eastward. So if you're traveling, and headed into that direction of Ontario Central or Eastern, you're going to encounter some of that into Saturday. Tonight, tomorrow morning, 13, we'll warm up pretty rapidly, and look where we're headed. a real far cry from today in terms of that warmth.
That's looking great, Colette. It's my son Ben's birthday tomorrow, so on his behalf, I'll thank him for the 26 degrees that you're giving us tomorrow.
Happy birthday, Ben.
Thanks so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
Still to come, the discovery of a new species of dinosaur. That story is coming up next, and you won't want to miss it. A high school athlete in Ohio managed to win the state team championship in track and field all by herself as the only member of her team.
I have 7 pairs of shoes in my track bag. So I have 2 flats, high jump spikes, long jump spikes, triple jump spikes, and then practice sprint spikes, and then competition sprint spikes.
It may not be the usual kind of shoe collection, but it helped the young athlete nab the state indoor track and field championship solo. The high school senior competed against teams comprised of up to 15 girls each to take that top prize. She won 4 individual competitions, which gave her enough points to claim that state title. And scientists in Argentina have confirmed fossils first found in 2018 belong to a new species of a long-necked dinosaur. The giant prehistoric herbivore is said to be one of the largest ever discovered. The Chucarasaurus is estimated to have weighed 50 tons and spanned 30 meters in length. The bones were so big, get this, they caused the van carrying them to the capital to tip over. Dino hunters see Argentina as a paradise for their kind of work. More than 100 dinosaur species have been discovered there alone. And before we go, the Windsor Express are back in the National Basketball League finals. They tip off against the London Lightning in about 30 minutes' time. It's the first time the Express have been to the finals since 2015. That's when they beat the Halifax Rainmen. The Lightning are looking to win their second title in a row. Windsor is a bit of an underdog here, but anything can happen in the 401 rivalry. The first two games are in London. Game 3 is Tuesday at the WFCU here in Windsor. That's it for us here at CBC Windsor News live at 6. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, for news anytime, head to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor, and you can check us out on social media. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.